order the Morton Grove Public Library Board of Trustees regular meeting on October 12th at 7 o'clock. And we all stand and say the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call.
Callahan.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Not here.
Gray.
Here.
Macy Jack here. Monzone.
Here.
Novik.
Here.
Pelletier.
Here. All right. The minutes from the regular board meeting. Can I have a motion to approve?
I actually have something.
I do too. Do we have to do?
You do it after.
Yeah, that's
after.
like, I'm learning.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I was like, oh, I did it right.
Yeah.
This September 14th. And then a second.
Second.
I had one thing too.
Well, just the doorway dedication.
Mm-hmm.
So Barb was there, so it was trustee Novik.
Okay.
and secretary.
Okay, I was gonna
Okay.
say I was in Indiana, so I know.
I didn't realize you were there,
Yeah.
because they don't recognize you yet outside of the city. A little slow, it's an age thing, just, because he should have announced you too, that's all I'm saying.
It's okay. I introduced myself, and, you know, I'm a newer face, and so.
Well, that doesn't mean anything,
You know.
I don't excuse mine.
So, thanks.
That was the same thing I was gonna say.
Okay.
I had a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
We gave you permission to buy tables for the computer room.
Uh-huh.
Have they been ordered, are they here?
They have been ordered and they are being delivered next Wednesday.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Mhm.
And lighting for the Baxter Auditorium.
that has, we made the down payment so they could order the equipment. They will start installing the new lighting on Monday and then complete that next Wednesday.
You're very positive. And the last one was the automation equipment and software.
That has been ordered. Ron is coordinating that, the head of IT. So, but I do know that he placed that order for the things that you guys did approve for us.
Great.
Yep.
Where'd you find the time to do that?
So since you're talking about that as well, the plumbing is being done on Monday and Tuesday for the staff bathrooms.
Oh,
And
I was
then-
voting that till we got to the
Yeah,
report.
since we were talking about all the things that were that's being done as well.
Good. Any other questions or comments? All right, if you wanna call the. So, we're approving it as amended. As amended, okay.
So, also, let's do Gray,
Yes.
Macy Jack, yes. Monzone,
Yes.
Novik,
Yes.
Pelletier,
Yes.
Callahan.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Then the minutes from the executive session of September 14th.
I move for approval of the executive session minutes from the Board of Trustee on September 14th,
I will second that.
2017.
I just noticed that Monzone was spelled wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Good eye.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Okay, approve as amended with the extra N.
Mr. Pelletier,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Macy Jack, yes. Monzone,
Yes.
Novik.
Yes.
Okay, public comments, agenda items only, I don't see any public. So the president's report, I remember that's me this time, and I had emailed with Pam because a friend of mine who's a librarian at Ella Public Library, they did a program this summer where a glass artist came in and made a mosaic for the building with some of the teens who use the library, and the school, or excuse me, the library paid for the materials, and then I believe the artist donated his time. So I had asked Pam if that was something we thought maybe we could do here. And I happen to know, someone who lives in Morton Grove who's an artist and muralist. And so I reached out to Pam, and then when she thought that that was a nice idea, I reached out to him as well, and it does seem like he's interested. So I've put them in touch with each other.
We've been emailing a little bit, and we're trying to arrange a mutual time to have
Yeah.
them come in and so at least see the space, talk about what we're thinking about it, and that kind of thing.
So we'll see if something happens, but I thought it was pretty neat. My friend had posted on Facebook about it, so I got more information from her and then shared it.
So we're gonna maybe integrate that into the, if they're, maybe in the future also, if they redo the surface down here.
Oh, yeah,
Something like that.
yeah.
There's not a lot of wall space down here, and even with the renovation, it probably won't change, but certainly those would be the types of things. I mean, I would love to do something in the stairwell,
Yeah.
coming down here, you know, there's the ramp space upstairs in the office area going up to the computers and stuff like that, so.
I know somebody else who lives in Morton Grove who's the ceramics teacher at Evanston Township High School, so I could always ask her too if we decide, you know, we wanna try
Trying to
to
get some decorative
Yeah,
pieces
or
throughout
maybe
the
she
building.
does other people.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we're starting with the idea, so I was glad that, Pam liked that idea too. So I actually had something to report and knew it was me. Committee reports, finance, Carlotta's not here, I don't know if you wanna walk us through it. Pam?
I can, so, if you wanna start with the cash statement. We currently have a total of kind of cash on hand, if you will. 1.8 million, so we actually have quite a bit still in our operating fund for the end of the year, which, while we're not purposefully trying to save that money, we're always looking at cost-effective ways of continuing our services, but it would be nice if we would have some money left over that we could put into special reserves to go towards, you know, YS or other building issues as they arise. But everything else is, I think, pretty self-explanatory with that. So our PMA account, I don't know if you guys look at this, the total portfolio report, we actually earn about $5,800 a month in interest on that money.
Oh, wow.
So it's, just not touching it has, is nice.
Gee, you could put me down there.
Yeah.
I know. So, the income statement is the percentage of money that we've spent throughout the year. So we're pretty much right where we should be.
I had a question, I mean, overall, the numbers are good, I was just curious what the miscellaneous was that was like double.
Miscellaneous is really high because that's the fund that we're taking out, the stocks for the vending machine.
Oh,
Because we
okay.
didn't have an account for
Okay.
that.
But then the ed's causing the miscellaneous income to go
Right,
up
to be higher. So next year, I've actually added a budget line to
Right.
to separate out that
Okay.
income. So that's what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a question with, fines and lost materials, I mean, for this year, and then maybe it's something for the budgeting too. That's gonna go down as because of the new policy changes where automatic renewals for.
Well, we haven't enacted automatic renewals yet, so that would be something that the board will have to vote on if they want to do that. Certainly, if we do elect to do that, libraries that have done that have seen a reduction in fines anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3, depending on. So we would see reductions in that. I did, lower that, expected revenue for next year to $20,000, because that was more realistic what we've been getting in the past few years.
And then lost materials, especially if it's, has a shift more digital and, or, with.
We just haven't had as much with lost materials as we've had in previous years.
I don't think that budget's, that
Well,
revenue's gonna disappear.
I mean,
more than-
It probably won't ever completely disappear because it will be a very long time before we don't have any print materials or, you know,
Oh, yeah.
other physical items that people damage or get damaged or lost.
You're gonna have to wait for a whole generation to die out.
Yeah.
Paper copy. And those of us in that generation are fighting for it.
I still mostly read in print.
I know, I realize that.
I do both. My son, who's 26, still prefers to read in print as opposed to digital.
There's a big population that does.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, now they say that you retain information better if you read it in print.
Oh, really? I hadn't read that. Yeah, it's interesting.
That's it.
Maybe you can read.
Yeah.
Did you read it on your phone, Stephanie?
Probably because you're only doing one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. So yeah, I think some of the, and the other numbers that are higher were things that, you know, we either pay annually or
Yeah, like
a
the
couple times a
database
year or
and
something like that,
yeah.
so whether we met it for right on track. The I don't think there's anything,
There were two personal checks, I think, to two people that were written and then voided, so it was just, Russell and Seema.
Seema is, was a person who's been doing our yoga classes.
Okay.
And I think she stopped working for the yoga center that
Okay.
we had been contracting with her out of. So that one was voided, that was a
Okay.
yoga class for kids. And the other one was made out to the wrong person for an adult program.
Oh, okay.
So that other one was Russell Lagadney. I think, I don't know the
Yeah.
numbers,
Yes.
yeah, 1586.
Okay.
So those, one was for a youth services program and one was for an adult services
Okay.
program. Any other questions on the check register? No, I think everything's
Facilities?
Do we need to approve them?
Oh, yes, you're right.
accepted.
Not used to
reports.
our letter. Not being here. Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Can I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Do we do a roll call on that since it's financial?
Calmat,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
yes, Monzone,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Pelletier. Yes.
Then facilities, which, yes, we did not meet, and then policy, right?
As I did last month, I put policies under new business, but
Oh,
if the
okay.
policy committee,
Yep.
however the policy committee wants to do it is fine, as long
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Do we wanna just do it now?
Okay, so that's further, a little further back in the packet. The first policy being the social networking.
Did you guys recommend any changes?
There were no changes recommended. I can share one thought that I had. But under the following content is considered inappropriate. I just brought up, the third down where it says posts and comments that include insults, threatening, harassing, or intimidating language, personal attacks, and unsupported accusations. I agree it's inappropriate. I was wondering if that should be like not tolerated. There's also, underneath, there's also the public library reserves the right to remove any posted content that does not comply with the policy, and the poster could be banned. So there might be enough coverage of the bases. That was just one thought I had shared, but, we ended up not changing anything. So we might be fine with the,
So what are you worried that it's leaving out?
just, the fact that, it is inappropriate. It is, should there be something that it's not tolerated? But it might not be needed, so that's,
Oh, okay. So not just that it is considered inappropriate, but you wanna maybe take out consider? Is that?
I guess, so where we left it was like, we left it without changes. Is that, and then, we, kinda wanted to see what you guys thought too then, so.
I think the way considered is used, it's okay to keep it in, like if it's considered inappropriate, it is inappropriate.
I think it could be.
I think Emily's concern was that, particularly that one point about, that post, that anything that was threatening or harassing or intimidating, and beyond inappropriate, do we need a stronger statement
Oh,
saying that that
okay.
particular
Okay.
thing is not to be tolerated, or won't be tolerated?
Okay.
And, I'm fine if the
So
board
there
wants
might
to
be
address
something
that.
beyond just taking it off.
But I also felt that it was addressed further down, saying that we reserve the right to remove it and
Okay.
then ban you from posting too.
Okay.
So I
Has
was
this
fine.
been have we had really any issues?
No, we have not,
Okay.
so.
Maybe leave it as it is for
Yeah,
now, and
no,
then if it
that's-
becomes problematic, we can revisit it.
Do you wanna approve each policy?
You probably should,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
We get the paper and go to.
So do I ask for
Mhm.
approval or does Stephanie do that?
Stephanie should ask for a
Okay,
motion
I'll,
to
yes, a
approve the social.
motion to
the social
approve the
networking
social networking policy.
Isn't the motion actually the committee presenting?
policy. The committee will make a recommendation, and then, but the board has to vote on it as
I
a whole.
understand, but I'm just talking about the motion.
As approved, as,
Oh.
I read
So-
somewhere when I was president that
That the
the
committee chair,
committee chair, by bringing up the,
by making the board or making the,
bringing it to the attention of the board,
motion?
is the initial motion, and then there
Yeah.
needs a second only.
okay.
okay.
That makes
I
sense.
read that somewhere when I was
Okay.
trying to be president.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, the financial report, the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's where I actually read it, it's under financial.
okay.
it does make sense.
So should I put myself as?
Yeah,
Okay.
Joanne, I think seconded.
Okay, I did.
Besides, it shortens the meeting 1 second.
Yeah.
I agree.
Bad boy, you.
All right, so let's, this is for the social networking policy, so, roll call, so we'll do Monzone,
Yes.
Novick,
Yes, and this, I think you can do a verbal
voice vote?
voice.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Okay.
So all in favor?
I'm trying to, you know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes, we can just say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no.
So many rules I haven't read.
Okay, so the next, policy is the patron code of conduct. We did not make any changes. I don't know if anybody has any, comments or concerns?
There were actually a couple issues looking at.
Okay,
So this hasn't changed since this hasn't changed recently, I should say at least.
we've reviewed it, both myself and the department heads have reviewed it, but, and I don't remember off the top of my head when it changed. I'd have to go back and look at my, why?
Um,
I mean, is there a particular?
A couple, there's three that I saw, or two actually that I saw.
Okay,
One was the staring or harassing, at a way that's considered, way that's considered inappropriate.
intimidating or reasonably be expected to disturb?
Yeah, and that was actually, there was an issue that came up in another situation.
Uh-huh.
Who was the arbiter of the, obviously the library of duty or somebody who was in charge of that. If there's a situation, a hypothetical situation, where a person was, someone said, well, I don't, feel uncomfortable because someone's making me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, and it's not applied it's not applied equally towards every patient, every patron,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that, can cause a problem for the library in the future? And that's the, that's unfortunate from, obviously, a legal standpoint, but.
Mm-hmm, certainly, I think anything could potentially cause a problem. I mean,
That's where the opening, and that's where the way it's drafted at this point
Mhm.
is opened it up, and that's why I want to see if I can, just to see if that's where,
I think that in this case, and certainly, we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but the Mr. Long situation
Well,
is one,
I
I know that, but I mean, that's a really good kind of case in point. And in practice, we take our cue of, someone being uncomfortable either from the staff person who might be feeling threatened or harassed or uncomfortable, or from the patron. And so that could vary from patron to patron, from staff person to staff person. So we're not necessarily making the librarians go around and make sure that everyone's acting a certain way, but we're taking our cues from our patrons and from other staff. So it's very personal in that it could change from person to person depending on, what make me uncomfortable might not make Barb uncomfortable or vice
But
versa.
that's exactly the reason I
Right.
brought it up at all.
It has not been problematic for
Well,
us,
that's why,
I mean,
before any problem would arise, that's why I wanted to, before it.
How would you change, would you?
yeah, I
See,
mean,
that's why it is problematic, because the way even having it, harassment and things like that, of course, some of these, is kind of where you say, you know when you see it or something like that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
someone likes a paper report
Yeah.
or library report, that's where those, situations are, pretty much straightforward, but even then,
Yeah.
there's that area that opens up where it could be.
I think, I don't know, as Emily said, I'm not really sure how you would word it to to eliminate some of that ambiguity.
And that's the thing, that's why I just wanted to, when I was reading, and it actually ties into the other two things. One was the other thing was mainly the dress code as well, in terms of, this is another, someone, let's just say someone came in wearing like a short sleeve shirt, and someone says, I don't wanna see bare arms, or something like that. Or like, and then, someone's child, someone brings their kid in, they're wearing shorts, and someone who doesn't consider it appropriate says, oh, well, they're offending me or her, I don't take that as that's all I'm saying, I mean, I don't, it just is something that I saw.
I think in this case, when we talk about any manner of dress resulting in indecent exposure, we were looking at what would be legally considered indecent exposure, like if you were, flashing, or, Morton Grove has obscenity laws on the books and those kinds of things. So I think in that case, it's not what one person considers inappropriate,
Okay.
it's actually what it would be considered indecent exposure. So,
Those are my questions on that.
Because that's such a cultural thing, what's indecent and indecent.
That's why.
And,
right, but I think that isn't,
and-
and you might have a better idea, Eric, than I do, obviously you would, you're an attorney, I'm not, but isn't indecent exposure the term that they use? I know that, I think in the ordinance in Morton Grove, that is a term they use, is indecent
I
exposure.
would think so.
So, if there's a better legal term that, indicates we don't want you running naked through the library,
Yeah.
I'm happy to put that in there.
Maybe you don't, but I don't think.
So, depending on, that would be one of the subjective things, depending on, But,
No, that's-
if there's a better legal term, we're certainly willing to put that in. That's what we're going for, is not what makes someone uncomfortable or comfortable, it's actually what's legally considered indecent exposure.
Would we wanna get a second opinion from Frank on if he feels that the staring or following another person, or if that's too vague, if somebody was ever to,
We can certainly do that, he's always happy to.
do you think that's a
You know,
reasonable
I-
next step in
that's-
terms
yeah,
of
probably.
clearing that up?
Yeah, I just make a suggestion of that. The way it's drafted, I don't see any, I just saw that the potential, and obviously as an attorney, I kind of see any kind of potential thing that'll show up in
Okay.
ways on this draft.
Absolutely. I will have him review that then and report on that next
I
time.
think we had this discussion before, maybe you remember about the, I don't know what they're called, the cigarettes that aren't cigarettes.
Oh, e-cigarettes?
Vaping. Mhm.
Is that in here? I don't see it. 'Cause
Smoking or
I
using
believe-
tobacco products, but.
That's still considered cigarette. It's not cigarette.
We can include that, we have
Yeah.
not,
That's a
but
good
I'm,
point.
I thought we did last time we went through it, that's why I was.
Does tobacco products cover that, or?
No,
or-
because
Not
because
really,
sometimes
because there's
tobacco-
no tobacco in them, is there?
Okay.
I don't know
Okay,
a
so
thing
I
about
will-
them.
I don't know, I actually remember ever looking at this one. And it's
Oh, okay.
interesting because the dates,
Well,
on
they're all
a lot of
dated.
the other ones, there's like previous dates and everything, or is this
yeah,
one just
this,
status?
well, actually, the reason it only has the one on there is because I took it from the website as I was making changes, or,
Okay.
looking at that. And Karina, when she posts them, she doesn't include all the dates,
dates,
so I would
okay.
have to go back and look, at the dates that this was reviewed and
Okay.
possibly revised, but I'm absolutely happy to add vaping, or there's language that we can add about that, and then we'll have Frank review it, and then I'll report on this, at the next meeting. If that's
You're gonna
okay?
have Frank also look into the term indecent exposure?
Yeah.
Make sure that,
Mhm, mhm.
The only thing I see with the one that Eric was talking about was if you had somebody who was maybe on like the autism spectrum or had Asperger's and really was like didn't pick up on social cues, but
Right.
as a librarian, I like to think that most librarians would recognize that that was what was happening and.
The other thing with, with all the policies is that, we can always make exceptions or recognize
And that's what I
situations
think, I mean, I feel
where
like in that particular instance especially. that
mostly,
would
not
probably
mostly what they, I mean, they kind of, help us obviously provide services and stuff like that, but it also is helpful for, staff to have something written that they can point to if there are issues.
Right.
But certainly we try to be cognizant of,
Yeah.
if there's an issue such as that, or, if we need to make an exception to something, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, again, I will have Frank review everything, but
Given
particularly those
the
two
recent
parts.
situations with,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that having something to this tune is
Yeah.
is a good support for your staff at the very least, so, so however we can, with Frank's
Oh,
recommendations.
yeah, no, I agree, if there's issues that are, you wanna have, make sure that you have backing,
Right,
and that's not, I just wanna make sure that we're waiting
Oh,
to
no,
do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think the point is well taken that going into it, knowing that there are gonna be some points of this that are gonna be a little bit more ambiguous, that could potentially result in other action by someone, and just so that we're aware that that could happen and we're willing to take that risk,
Right, yeah.
by protecting our other patrons and our staff.
Yeah.
So,
Going back to the statement about medical conditions that are unknown
Mhm.
to the staff,
right.
well, do you consider that as annoying or something? For example, a kid with Asperger, how do you treat that? Unless they say, well, I'm bringing somebody here with this kind of disability, how do you treat them?
I mean, some people do tell us, but, the staff is really, really good at, both giving people the benefit of the doubt and recognizing situations. I mean, they're really used to dealing with the public and particularly, a
Because
lot
I
of
think
that
those,
is
if
known to
those
us.
children or other individuals come, as long as there's somebody with them that could tell the stuff.
Absolutely, and that's
then-
usually,
Then those are
yeah.
acceptable.
I mean, in practical terms, that is usually
Exactly.
what happens,
Yes, yes,
is that,
yes.
someone comes in with a
That's
caregiver,
right.
or they've become known to us, if, we've
That's
got some
right.
people that are older that, come down into the children's department, that kind of thing, but they're known to the staff, and so,
That's right.
it's easy for us to understand or explain to other people who may not be aware of that
And
situation,
it's just,
so.
you have to be very careful that you're not, addressing something that doesn't need to be addressed.
Right.
In a sense,
Right.
if they're handicapped, it doesn't necessarily mean that the world needs to know.
Exactly, that's true as well. Yeah.
And you don't wanna hold them accountable for everything that goes wrong.
Well, the staff should need to know that they are acceptable if they
Yeah,
are,
it's a,
Mhm.
because you cannot
I mean,
discriminate against them.
right, if they start acting out in some way, then I think the staff would have enough sense to approach them or
Yes,
their
yes, that's-
caregiver.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the nice things about being in a smaller community is that many of our patrons become known to us, and so we are aware of
That's
situations, so that's an advantage to us. Certainly that doesn't mean that there aren't people that come in that we're unaware of their personal situations, but, we start out giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, and then if there's no problems, there's no problems, and, by and large, we don't have a lot of problems with patron behavior. So, this is more, kind of hopeful in that, or, we hope we never have to use some of these things, but it's always good to have them in place. But most people are, pretty good about following the rules and behaving
Yeah.
themselves appropriately in public and that kind of thing, so.
Any other questions or comments about the patron public comment?
So that one I will bring to Frank, or send Frank and then
So
bring
yeah,
it back.
we'll wait on
Yep,
doing
table.
anything with
Do
it.
you wanna take, am I doing moved and seconded, or do we?
You can do
do we
two, because
table?
there's no, yeah.
Okay.
Table.
The next policy is the collection development policy. No, no recommendations, any questions about this one?
Do we vote again if we're not doing anything with it? I guess we did on the other one.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
yeah, so I'll second it.
And I guess was Kyle.
All in favor of approving the collection development policy?
Aye.
Any nays? And the last one was the spending policy. Ken might have a, you know.
So, I had thrown this in for the policy committee just to look at, because the law recently changed that raised the minimum, before you have to go out to bid, from $20,000 to $25,000, and so I thought the policy should reflect that. When I was looking at that, and I don't have strong feelings either way, made a suggestion that possibly raising the minimum amount that I am allowed to approve before coming to the board for.
I was just
Full
curious
board
why you
approval.
chose the number 7,500 as opposed to 5,000.
It's what I've seen other libraries do, and a couple libraries have bumped it up just because of the bump up with the minimum bid. I don't have a strong feeling either way.
I was
Emily and
just
Joanne
curious
had asked
how you-
if I bumped up against that a lot, and I don't too often, but, so it didn't, like I said, I just thought if we were gonna look at it, then now would be the time to do that, but I'm fine either way. But I do think we should change the 20 to 25,000.
Right, no, that
because
makes sense.
that's the new statute.
I heard that.
Anybody have any thoughts on the change from 5 to 7,500?
Matches up with what the state says.
I'm trying to remember when we first looked at this one, and it seemed there was some standard we were basing the, I don't know
The
what
dollar amount on.
the amounts on, and the whole thing actually.
It really varies, there isn't a set,
There
that's,
isn't,
there
okay.
really isn't a set amount, I mean,
I
it's
just remember something vaguely,
and I know at one point, I think, you know, at least initially, there was some concern about expenditures that maybe the board hadn't been tracking as closely under previous administrations.
Probably true.
And so I think that there was some of that involved, but like I said, I don't have a problem either way. I just thought if we were gonna be looking at one, is this the time to look at possibly
No, that's a
bumping
good
that up?
time to do it, with all the expenses that have come up lately.
That was also kind of my thinking, waiting for the next thing to break, but.
I'll second approving the
All I
spending
can say,
draft.
Pam, is you
with
gotta quit
suggested
breaking
changes.
things.
I'm sorry, Stephanie?
I said I'll second approving the spending policy draft with the suggested changes.
With the both suggested changes?
Yes, the changing the minimum for going out to, or am I saying that right? No, wait, the amount for going out to bid from 20 to 25,000,
Okay.
and the amount to require board approval from 5,000 to 7,500.
Okay.
Novick,
Yes.
Pelletier,
Yes.
Calaman,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Mason, yes, Monzone.
Yes.
So that was the policy committee, and now we're back to the staff report.
I'd like to, I don't know where this fits in, the sheet with our names, I had a question about it.
Okay.
I don't know where it fits in on the agenda. But it seems to me, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but I was trying to figure out if we solved our problem of 2, 2, and 3.
Yes, so
because
what,
I couldn't figure it out.
yeah, you can't from that, so.
We got, it was, the background briefly was there's supposed to be 2, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 people on the board. And that means 2 are elected 1 year, 2 are elected another year, and 3 are elected. We got off of it. Yeah, it was with me, actually, that's why I know this. I was appointed to the board, and it screwed up the numbers because they didn't call me up for a vote at the right time, and everything got messed up after that. So we've been trying to get it back to 2, 2, and 3.
Right,
I
so,
have something also. I think I'm the only one not being in any committee.
okay, which committee, they appointed them last month, that was why,
Because,
so,
Okay, now forgive me because of my very hectic schedule.
No problem.
We thought maybe.
I'd like to get into a committee where,
You don't have to do
on
anything.
a day, like I'm a little lighter on my schedule. Who meets on Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays?
The only one that meets regularly is finance, and that's usually right before this meeting. And then policy meets quarterly, and that's usually on a date, and the committee meetings are set by whatever schedule is best for the committee members, so, so there isn't a set date except for
I would like to be
finance.
in a committee that fits my other schedules. I have heavy schedule in the hospital, plus I have medical students that I am teaching, so.
Which committee are you interested in? I mean,
It doesn't matter, actually.
Well, why don't we put you in the facilities, it's gonna meet the least often, it's gonna meet only twice. Because it has to.
Facilities?
No,
is that, is
We can meet on
that?
whatever day is good for you.
sure.
Is that okay with?
Well, yes, I also with the boys, I have to,
Yeah, I know, you both have
Yeah.
limitations.
yeah.
Me,
but we
I'm
can-
just a lazy retired person.
My assumption is that, you know, if we do something with the building, we'll all be,
Well,
Probably.
we
That's
will all
true.
be involved,
What I was gonna
but on a
suggest,
regular basis, I don't think there's anything that we need to look on a regular basis.
the only
anyway.
reason is right now the bylaws say that all committees meet a minimum of twice a year.
That's correct.
And therefore, we have to decide what this building committee is doing and what they need to do twice a year, or maybe eliminate the committee. I brought that up in the past and I was voted down.
Eliminating
But
facilities.
I'm still wondering if we need this committee, and I thought the committee could talk about it and see if they can come up with a reason to exist, because
yeah, I mean, for me, it's easier to meet, during the day in the mornings, just because, like you, my husband travels a lot and oftentimes at the last minute, so if he leaves and then I'm not able to get a babysitter, it's hard for me. I get babysitters for this meeting when I have to,
for me, it doesn't really matter.
so I don't know if you're I mean, I'm guessing you're not available during the day much.
Well, Mondays in the morning is fine.
Okay,
My Monday is like Saturday for anybody.
okay.
And Wednesday is like any Wednesday for any doctor. But Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, today is a killer.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could certainly try and figure out meeting on a Monday or Wednesday morning,
Yeah,
as long as that's not an issue.
Monday morning or Monday evening is fine. Tuesday evening is fine.
Stephanie needs to meet in the morning, that's why,
Okay.
so.
We don't have anything scheduled, I mean, we don't have any upcoming meetings scheduled, but I've made a note that those days work better, so as we look at scheduling
Morning
those.
schedules
to-
with coffee and bagels, fine. But scrap that.
not a problem.
You left the cream cheese.
So in terms of the dates of people's terms, we do have it straightened out. What will happen is, since Joanne and Eric were appointed, they have to run at the next general consolidated election, which is
Okay.
April 2nd, 2019.
Yeah,
So at that time, you two will have to decide amongst yourselves which one of you will run for the remainder of a 4-year term and which one of you will run for the remainder of a 6-year term. And then we'll be on the right schedule. So you'll have to think about that over the next year and a half or so. Well, maybe a year by the time you
Are we
know,
talking
finally get
elections
things done.
again?
Pardon? Yeah, so at that election, and it's, library trustees are elected at the general consolidated election, because we will have a general election in November, but it's not a consolidated election, so that's why.
so
you know,
one of these that ends on the 19th, one or two.
Right, of Eric or Joanne,
Or
will have to,
either
they'll have to duke it out and figure out who's gonna run for the remainder of a 4-year term from your original appointment, and then who would run for the remainder of a 6-year term from the original appointment.
So that's in April. At what point do we start that process?
I will let you know, and it's a few months ahead of time, but I'll let you know
April
that.
next year, right?
April 2019, so it's still like,
2019,
yeah,
okay.
it's still a year and a half away. So I'll
I'm
definitely let you know, I
already
was looking
running
at all
on
the
my
dates.
8th or 7th year. Am I?
And you're in your,
I'm one of the oldies, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're before me.
Yeah, you're gonna
You're 2 years before me,
Yeah, so,
and I've been in here about 4 years, so.
This is my second
It's only
year.
6 or 7, so stop complaining.
Okay. So we're up to
did you run for the six?
your
or
report.
I
Okay,
ran
so
for 6
four?
when I ran.
my report,
That's what I got screwed up from.
in addition to what was in my written report, there are some things, our staff in service, which was scheduled for tomorrow, has been canceled. The speaker was the Morton Grove social worker, Rebecca Philpott. She called me this morning, had a medical emergency and was not, will not be able to be here. Given our unplanned closures and the short notice, I thought it was better to cancel at this point, and we'll set another date to have her come out, because I do think it would be useful to have her come out. So it was good. We hadn't ordered any food yet or anything like that, so we took out all the signs down, we took it off the website, we took it off Facebook and other social media, so that's not happening.
I was wondering, I saw that on Facebook today.
Yeah. I already mentioned, delivery of furniture for the computer room renovation is Wednesday. Renovation will take place the 23rd, October 23rd through November 5th. Plumbing work on the staff bathroom begins Monday. As you know, probably, if you've read your emails, we've had issues with gas leaks off and on for the past week and a half or so. We believe that has been solved. One of the big issues with that is with the new generator. There is more pounds of pressure of gas going through pipes that were not meant to handle that. So when Bishop Plumbing came out to look at that, one of the things they discovered also is that there was no tape or glue or anything else used when they put the pipes together. So they sealed up what they could, which was really nice that that was a relatively easy fix, because we were anticipating probably having to take down some ductwork to get into the pipes that were in walls and stuff, but we didn't have to do that yet. They did tell me that there is a good possibility, because there is more pressure going through those pipes, that we may have other issues with gas leaks as going forward. So, but since they've been out to fix that, we haven't had any other issues. We are having issues with our generator, and the brand new generator, which they started up and ran great, and they turned it off and set it into automatic mode, and then the alarm started going off. So Dave, who has been on vacation all week as well, so I have been doing all the building stuff.
It's under warranty, I assume?
It is under warranty, so, but I learned how to reset the generator, and I was outside in the rain on Tuesday morning. And so they are actually, they came out today to Steiner, the original people that installed it, fixed whatever was their issue was, and then there is a defective part that MG Electric is coming out to replace tomorrow. So,
Of course.
so we're all good there. And I think those were the only things that I wanted to add to my written report.
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
One, I want to thank you for attending the bank open house.
Oh, that was fun.
I
Or the
was
one
the
that-
one pushing community
Mhm,
artists
mhm,
around
mhm.
here.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I think it's great that you were able to spend some time at one of the desks.
Oh, yeah, I love doing that.
I think it's great for the staff to see you there and for you to see them at work.
It's always nice, especially the way things have been going. I'm like, oh, this is why I became a librarian.
I thought that was great.
Not to work on the generator, but.
I have a number question.
Okay.
On card numbers, new cards at
Mhm.
99. Is that new cards, or does that also include people who are renewing?
That's just new cards.
How do you get so many?
People moving in and out, people whose cards have expired, and expired long enough ago, like
Oh, okay.
within the last couple of years, that they're not in the database anymore, that kind of
That's
thing.
amazing, it
Yeah,
seems to me.
It's,
99.
it would be nice if it was more, and actually this seems a little bit low, especially because September was National Library Card Sign Up Month. But one of the things that we do that apparently didn't get done this month as much as we normally do is we actually call when people's cards are up for renewal. So we
I
didn't do
think
that
it's
now,
amazing
so.
you call when books are almost due. I think it's
We don't
incredible.
normally do that, but we do, if you sign up for the notices, you get email notification. Yeah,
I didn't know I signed up.
yeah, that is nice.
And one other question,
Mhm.
on September 21st, you, maximizing fundraising at your library.
Yeah.
Anything useful?
I was very disappointed in that webinar. I was hoping that it was going to be more useful than it was. The person who presented it, there was a lot of good information if you already had a really active friends group in place and that kind of thing. It was more an organizational, like how to organize all your, disparate pieces so that you can get more money. It wasn't like you have nothing and here's how to start from ground zero.
Okay.
There is, another, and you may be aware of it, there is a library kind of consulting group that they consult for fundraising and that kind of thing. They're based out of Minnesota and they're called, and I cannot think of the name of it, I'm seeing it, the email. You know what I'm talking about? They have a program, they have a course, webinar that, I don't know.
They
how
spoke
it was.
at one of the meetings.
But they've got one that's kind of starting fundraising from the ground up, and so
Yeah.
I haven't viewed that one yet.
It wasn't a webinar at the time, it was the lunch
Might have been a
lecture
program,
at the conference.
Yeah, so.
That somebody from Minnesota talked, and he said, that's where I got the idea
Mhm.
of combining Friends and Foundation.
Right, yeah, so they have a little bit more, I was disappointed in that webinar, I was hoping I would get more out of it, but, I thought, if we start
Yeah.
really getting a lot
One
more
day,
people,
one day.
that would be great, but it was more if you already had some pieces in place and how to move forward, so.
How was the local administrators meeting?
We stopped for the summer, so we just had we started up again in September, so, it's fine. It's nice to put names to faces and just to hear what everyone else is doing, and that's pretty much what we're doing with that right now. There's some talk about the group trying to kind of spearhead a project of some type. I don't know how successful that will be. They've just started talking about that, so there hasn't been a lot of discussion, so our next one is actually Tuesday.
I have a question about Books and Beyond. I never got the one in August.
Okay.
Has there been another one since then? Because I was
No.
gonna say, I still
No.
haven't. I don't know if you,
I did bring it, we did look into it, we're trying to look
Okay.
into it, so,
Okay. we don't know yet. And again, it's possible that my neighbor who was picking up the mail just missed it, but I remember that you hadn't gotten it either.
right, so the November, December one just went to the printer, so you
Okay.
should actually be receiving something in the next couple of weeks. So
Okay.
if you don't, let me know that for
Okay.
sure. And I'll try to, let me make a note so I remember to ask as well.
I also thought it was great that the board registration services.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
a
great.
good
Yeah,
one.
I think that will be awesome.
That led me to a question though about, possibly more work. Have you looked any further into the passport thing?
We're gonna do that next,
Okay,
so, yeah, that's on our list.
okay,
So we
great.
thought this would be a good thing to start with, and then, passport services, providing passport services will be much more labor intensive.
Right.
And there'll be more training involved in that kind of thing, so we wanted to kind of take baby steps towards that.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in doing that, particularly if we do something like automatic renewals and we're losing some of that revenue, it might be a way to offset
Yeah,
some of it, knowing that there might be an increase in staff time that's involved, so just have to kind of work that out. Definitely, that's still on my radar, it's
Okay.
something I wanna do.
Does the staff need anything, like any additional support with the kitchen and the bathroom, remodels, or they,
They've been pretty good. I've been buying them food a lot, so that helps. And keep trying to send them as much information as much as possible. I think, the kitchen is pretty done. Right now, it's the bathrooms, so I don't know how much of an impact that has had. I know some staff have never used them, some staff use them all the time, so they've had to kind of change where they go to the bathrooms. I'm not sure what else we could possibly do for them. I'm just kind of recognizing that it's, that it's an inconvenience, and I try to tell them all the time that they've been great, thank you, and that kind of thing. So, other than that, I appreciate you asking, and like I said, I guess just if I continue to buy them food, as long as you think that's okay. That kind of thing that seems to make some people, that goes a long way to easing some of the other bumps in the road. But
I had a question on the programming statistics. I saw that nobody came to the ACT testing. But I was also curious about the teen library council. Does that mean there's nobody on it or just nobody came that day? And they're hoping to have people on it?
I think the last time James tried to have the teen library council meet, I don't know if he got anyone or he got just a couple of kids.
Okay.
As far as why no one attended for the ACT test prep stuff, we don't know. And we
Right.
publicize that
Yeah.
everywhere in the
Yeah.
high schools and everything. And I know in other places I've been, it's been really popular. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I think some of it is a function that there isn't a high school more pro, you know what I mean? It's just, there's a lot of different pieces that go into that,
Yeah.
I think, but that was unfortunate, so.
Is that the kind of thing that next time if you tried to do it, you could partner with the school and have it in the school, but somehow the library be involved with it, I wonder?
I can ask James to ask, I
I don't know that.
I don't know what kind of.
School program, you know, I don't know how that works.
SAT prep though, the high schools, near us versus ACT now? Is that what they were talking about? When that arrows west side changed that?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
I got the vibe that they were phasing out ACT and moving to SAT. I wonder if that was maybe some of it.
That could, I will have him
Look into that
find
too,
out.
maybe see.
Some schools I know aren't requiring test scores at all
Right.
anymore.
That would have been great for me.
right?
We're still trying, and I think there's an SAT prep one coming up, so
Okay, I
there
wonder if
might
that'll
be a
be
way
more
to see
successful.
if, yeah. So I will bring these up with James and see. It's, you know, team programming is hard.
Yeah.
Everywhere, because it's such a, especially as they get a little bit older, there's so many things that are pulling their attention away, and, you know, they're involved in so many other things, but we're still trying, and, James is working more closely with Brittany now, the, YS school liaison, to kind of transition those kids that she sees into using more team stuff. So we're hopeful that once that, you know, they're collaborating a lot more than James and Brenda were, just as Brenda had been here for a while and was, you know, had kind of what she did in place, and so I think that some of the change of personnel might, we're hopeful we'll be able to foster some of those relationships to keep some of those kids coming back as they get older.
Any idea why in, under youth services, like talks tours outside the library? So Parkview's at 37, and like Hines is at 68.
It's just a difference. Some of that is most of that in fact is based on requests from the schools. So a lot of it just depends on if the teacher requests someone to come out.
Okay.
So.
They're just, you know.
With ESL, this is one person coming in, it looks like.
Which ESL?
The
one-on-ones?
One-on-one practice sessions.
Right, and that's what those are designed for. There's also an ESL conversation group, which there are, and then Marlene Mark, one of the adult services librarians, leads that. And there is a group of people that come, but then they can also schedule one-on-one sessions.
So
with people.
apparently one person's scheduled.
Right, if there's just one on there,
Yeah.
then for that month, then just one person did that, yeah.
Any other questions? So corporate council.
So Frank obviously isn't here, but I have included in your packet the letter that Frank drafted and wrote to me, unasked, which I thought was nice of him to do, outlining all of the whole situation with our band patron. So there's that. I also included in your packets Mr. Long's latest FOIA request to me, and all of its
Harassing.
Crazy.
So I did respond to that, and I believe I included that as well.
You know, Eric.
Just to bring you up to speed where we are at with that. So since my response to Mr. Long dated October 4th, did I include that in your packets?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I have not heard back from him, so we will see.
Wow, we did what is today, is that
Yes.
6
So,
days?
The 12th.
Should be the end of it.
I'm hopeful that it is, but we'll see. So, like I said, I just wanted you all to see kind of where we're at with that I am keeping Frank and Stephanie informed anytime anything happens, so that everyone is aware.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I, not to make light of it, but at this point, it's entertaining if nothing else.
All right, the budget.
After the first reading of last month, there did not appear to be any changes that the board had requested that I make to the budget. I do have the final documents prepared if the board agrees to move forward with the numbers as presented as last month. The village does have our preliminary budget numbers because they had their first budget meeting last night, I believe, and so I gave them to Hannah Sullivan, the finance manager of the village, and with the understanding that she knew that they were preliminary and that they were not, final yet, so they could start their budget discussions. But as I said, if there's no other changes, I do have the documentation here for signing by the president, and
Do
can get
we
that.
motion to approve it and everything?
Yes, you would motion
That's
to
what I thought,
approve
yeah.
the budget as presented last month, or if you want to do the dollar amount or
Okay.
levy request,
So
or,
quiet.
and that, actually, that you probably want to make a motion to, to approve the whole budget.
Okay.
But you might want to say the levy request and then the whole budget.
I'll try and do it, and we'll see how I am. I will motion to approve the Morton Grove Public Library 2018 budget, which would result in a property tax levy of $3,338,463 and expenditures totaling $3,427,663. Does that sound?
Hmm?
I'll second that.
Any comment?
This is a really stupid question.
Mhm.
If our expenses are larger than our income,
The levy amount is the amount that we're asking the Village of Morton Grove to ask for in taxes.
okay.
The revenue amount is what we will spend, but it reflects, the budget is balanced because the levy request doesn't include all of our revenue lines. It's just the tax line, because that's the only thing the village has control over. So if you look at the budget, if you look at the other paper, the
Is it the same
final,
as
you'll
last
see the
year?
other, pardon?
It's almost the same as last
It's
year.
1%, it's a 1%
1%.
increase,
1%.
so, yeah. So if you look at the final numbers, Barb, you'll see that,
They
our
do,
total
yeah, I
revenue.
thought they had, and then
Yeah, and the reason is because we asked the village to levy the property, the tax, and, yeah.
if I serve for another few years, I'll understand.
Pelletier,
Yes.
Calumet,
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
Mason, yes, Monzone,
Yes.
Novick.
Yes.
All right, under new business, we've already taken care of the policy committee, so we're moving to, I asked Pam if we could please discuss the posting of board packets online prior to the meetings along with the agenda. Obviously, there will be times when not everything can be posted, but within reason.
The reason it wasn't is certain people, Eric, that's his name, isn't it? Not you. A pain in the butt, Eric, would use it to his advantage and somehow make us look bad. He would assume that anything on there was final,
Well,
and that was one of the hesitations of,
But-
and yet if you're gonna draw the public in, you gotta give them reason to come.
yeah, and I mean, just because he assumes it's final doesn't mean, or anybody would assume it's final, doesn't mean
It
that,
is.
that it is. That's an incorrect assumption
Yeah,
to
I'm
make.
just saying, maybe you should say proposed or
Oh, I mean, anything that,
something, I don't
I
think
mean, all
proposed
the
is the right word. but-
policy committee meetings have, had draft stamped on it, things like
Yeah,
that. And then when things were out to bid, I know that's not everything we'd put up, there would be.
You know, when things are up to bid, they're not
Right,
no, because
of course.
they might
Right.
have a connection, you don't know what this.
Right, so that's why when that's sort of what I was trying to.
A good,
reason.
a way to potentially help that as well, and some organizations do this. On the agenda, they list the things that are action items, so that there's a sense that those items still need to be voted upon as opposed to just
Just
information
about
items.
anything that has to be held in executive committee would be off limits.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, obviously,
Oh,
there's
of
things that
course.
we're not gonna
Yeah.
post. But I don't have a problem either way, I mean, I'm certainly willing to give it a try.
I would propose that it be on a trial basis.
What's the motivation for the change?
It's just people come to board meetings and they wanna have more of a sense
Oh,
of.
yes, like when I sat there for those 3
Yeah,
months, and I was like.
and it's
I have no
becoming
idea what's
more
going on.
common, like I know
It's
Niles Public Library posts their packets ahead of time, I think a lot of the local school boards post.
Oh, okay.
And there are things that you have to hold back, and I think maybe if we drafted the agenda a little differently, if you think that would make things, clear up possible confusion, but I just think, I don't think that I think there's more reason to do it than not do it, but that's just my
Well, it's not
opinion.
secret, people can come in and.
Um,
do so that
But I
makes
wanted
sense.
everybody to have an opportunity to, have an opinion on it. We don't have to do it because I want to, but I
So many,
wanted to suggest it.
guidelines of the Open Meetings Act, I mean, I know that can't add anything new to the agenda unless under new business.
In terms of, there's nothing in the Open Meetings Act that tells you how, it's all about the agenda, it's not anything else. So if it's it has to be on the agenda for you to take action. Your agenda items have to be explanatory enough so that someone reading them
Well, that's
could
fine.
understand what you were gonna do. And that might be another way of saying, this is an action item, so
Yeah.
so there's that, but in terms of whether or not you should and obviously things like, executive session information wouldn't be posted like that statute, but in terms of whether or not you post your packets, your information to back up your agenda, there's nothing on that in the Open Meetings Act. I will say that the Open Meetings Act, as they make changes to it over time, it has become, there's a much greater move towards more transparency as opposed to less, and certainly we want to try to do that, we're not trying to hide anything. And so I will say that I have had a couple of requests in the 2 different times I've been here, not requests, but questions why we don't post more of our board packet information online before the meetings. So there has been some patron interest in that. And like I said, I'm certainly willing to try it and
And it might be a little more work for you, but
figure it out.
You just, when doing the agenda, I know there is an agenda recommendation, or whatever you call it in the bylaws, what has to be included in the agenda.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's taken actually, I
And that
believe, from the
basically is what
trustee.
this
Yeah.
is.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's fine, and we include all those things, but in
Yeah.
terms of what you should potentially post online, or do you have to post certain parts of your packet online, or that kind of thing, there
Right.
isn't anything like that.
Anything with money, pretty much.
Mhm. So I mean,
okay, if
if-
people are open to us trying it, and if it turns out to, for whatever reason, not seem like something we wanna do anymore.
So I do have a question though, is part of this, or, should we be moving towards trying to make it so that, do you still want to receive your board packets, I guess is my question.
I don't wanna have to print everything out.
Okay, that's fine, I just want to make sure, because
And I
When you
like
talk
being
about-
able to look.
yeah,
at
when you
it.
talk about the schools doing it, a lot of times now they're going to that
Oh,
board,
do they?
but there's actually a program that you can do.
Oh, yeah, I see
the
them on
board-
iPads, I mean, I could do
Yeah.
something like that, I suppose, but I mean, I think we'd have to all wanna do that.
I think there are a few libraries that they
Although I guess we could
They
pick and
provide
choose, but it would depend how much it costs.
I just want to know, so as long as
And
everyone
we'll
still
retain
wants
it
to do
more,
it.
if we get it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get the
yeah.
paper and post it
I
on.
like to write on
Yeah,
it.
that's fine, but we'll put as much as we can online, prior to the meeting, and then you'll continue to get your board packets as
Yeah.
usual. Okay. I don't think you need to vote on that. That's just providing direction. to
Yeah.
the board.
Alright, board meeting dates.
I know that November is problematic for a number of you, so, there was a suggestion to, potentially move the board meeting from the 9th. Is that what it's?
Yes, it's
The 9th to November 16th.
So
Either
November
way, I'm not
8th.
here.
I did.
Are you here early this week? If we did it not on a Thursday, like on the,
Like what? Thursday what?
and well, instead of Thursday the 16th, you said you're not here, but like, are you here on Monday the 13th or Tuesday the 14th? I can't do that Wednesday, but I could do either of those Monday or
November.
Tuesday.
I'll be gone pretty much the whole of November, actually.
You're here? And you're gone? Gone.
Gone.
Okay, so you might not have been here on the 9th anyways?
I don't think I will be.
So I would say.
Other than Dr. Calamag then, it sounds
Why
like.
did mine say November 8th? We didn't know.
That's next.
This is for
Oh.
Just for the one next
2018.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
we're not there yet.
Oh, I skipped ahead.
Sorry.
We're talking for next month.
Yeah.
I got it.
November 20th.
Sometimes the brain stops working.
So
I
I
know
will
you don't
say-
have your calendar with you.
I will
No, I
say
don't have a
that,
calendar.
November 16th, this room is available in
Okay.
the evening. So I
Okay.
did not check other dates, because
Okay.
I can if we decide on a different date, but I do know for November 16th, this
Do you
room is
wanna let
available.
Pam know like tomorrow maybe if
I'm generally
that does
nothing
or
in
does
the
not work?
evenings.
Okay.
Because I'm afraid of the dark and I don't like to go out.
Okay.
Mm.
I don't know where my feet are. Being that I'm wearing a piece of wood on the bottom
Yeah.
of one of them.
What about Eric, Joanne, Emily?
I'm good for the 16th. The 16th, yes.
Email Carlotta and see if that will work for
Yeah,
her.
I think it will, but
Okay.
we'll find out.
So.
So you will need to vote on that.
Okay. I motion to move the November, board meeting for 2017 from Thursday, November 9th to Thursday, November 16th.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, yeah, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Okay, and then updates on the 6200 Lincoln Avenue.
Actually, you do also have the 2018.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
board meeting
we
dates.
talked
That's
about
okay.
that, yeah, no.
These
Ah,
are
faster than all of you. That's what
the
it is.
schedule of the regular meetings, the second Thursday of every month. I know there was some, I think Joanne, is it you that aren't gonna be
Yes.
here in February? I was originally thinking I was gonna be gone at that meeting, but I'm not, my plans have changed, so, I would say probably at this point,
Yeah,
I would
it's just
say
one
if it's just one
person.
person, Joanne.
Yeah,
filling in. So, basically, this is, again, just the regular meetings. I know typically we vote later in the year to not meet in August. I like to leave it on
Leave it
here,
on, yeah,
just
no.
in the event that we need to meet
Not
that,
knowing
so,
what's gonna happen.
right. So if the board wants to approve those. or-
Motion to approve the Board of Trustees schedule of regular meetings for January through December of 2018. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Right.
Any nays?
Nay nays.
Any nays?
All right, now the 6200.
Can I just-
Yes?
The June 7th, that's the first Thursday that month, that's
Oh,
correct?
Is that- Let me double check.
Hold on, maybe I'm on here.
June 7th would be the,
yeah, it's the first Thursday.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 14th then. Okay, I will make that change.
So as
So,
amended,
yeah.
we'll approve it.
Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't see something sooner.
Nope, that's fine. You change that. It's not enough. So the 6200 building is still for sale, obviously. We've had a few showings. We have a very, very interested buyer who dropped off his plans for the use of the building at the village the other day, and just heard back today that they said, no, you couldn't do what you wanted to do in the building. I have actually
The
reached
village
out,
has it in for us.
I have reached out to Ralph, I emailed him and said, you know, is there any chance that this potential buyer could get a variance?
What do they want to do?
It's a medical supply company, medical lab, something like that, and apparently in the area, the zoning that we're in, you can't have any medical supply or labs on the first floor.
Okay.
So, I don't,
They have it on, there's a one on,
they might be in a different commercial zone. So I did reach out to, Ralph, the village administrator, and said, hey, does this person have any possibility of getting a variance on this? I have not heard back. The buyer is is ready to make an offer if they could possibly get that, so.
they gave us all sorts of trouble when we tried to buy it,
So,
the village planning commission.
you know, I'm hopeful, you know, I ran into Ralph when we were at the MB Financial Open House, and he did indicate that the village would be possibly willing to work with us. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. So the broker is still actively showing it. There is another interested party that he doesn't believe would be, come through with as good of an offer. So we're still we're still trying, and it was very disappointing when I read Brian's email, because I was really keeping my fingers and toes crossed for that. But,
Is there anything we can do?
I would say yes, that there probably is. I would talk to, you know, as village residents, your voice, you know, your taxpayers here. So certainly, if you want to make your thoughts known to either your, are they your council people? I don't know, what are the term for them in every village? Your village trustees.
Yeah.
We have wards in St. Charles.
Should we be doing that as library board members, or?
You could do it as either one, I think,
Okay.
possibly. So I don't know, beyond just they referred the potential buyer back to the zoning, and so I don't know what the reasoning is behind the rule. So, and I don't know how willing
I
the
wonder if we
current
could
board will
do a
be.
petition that we could get the library users to sign, if Frank could work out something, Frank's our lawyer.
Yeah, I don't know, my, and this is more of a guess than anything, my educated assumption would be, that the village would probably be more interested in area residents as opposed to general library users. Because it could potentially have more of an impact on area residents than, say, a library user that lives,
Walking door to door.
that kind of thing. So,
Which part of the proposal of the buyer done to the village, like,
They want a variance.
very,
my understanding is that the part that is that they cannot do is there cannot be a medical supply,
That doesn't even make sense.
medical supply or
Medical
a
supply.
medical lab on the first floor in this zone. And I believe that building is in what's called a commercial residential zone, where they're trying to encourage pedestrian, so it's on, yeah.
years
so-
ago, there was Baxter Laboratories across the street.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that the last time that
What
changed,
is, there's nothing even,
I know.
other than oxygen, there's nothing even
Right.
remotely dangerous.
so that was the answer that they were given from the village
Well,
zoning
I don't
administrator,
think-
not the village
What it is
administrator.
we have to educate them on what's gonna be in there.
Right. The buyer did drop off what he wants to do with the building. The village has that. The zoning officer at the village does have that, and
You know, the village ended up costing us, I don't know how many, a couple $1,000, because we had to have a road study, how many cars,
Right.
turn left and turn right and go straight
Yeah.
around the building, and they gave us all sorts of hassles.
so like I said, I have reached out to Ralph, finding out, do we have any wiggle room? I would say if you guys,
Yeah, and I think, understand what you're saying. I don't think going forward, it's helpful though to air past grievances.
I agree. Basically, I just want to say, is there any way that, is there any chance that this person can get a variance? That's all I asked with Ralph. I don't.
I think their answer is not written in stone yet.
That's what I'm hoping, so that's why I thought I would ask Ralph.
What
And
they
then-
said is just a knee-jerk reaction to what do we
This is what their policy is.
Right, and that was why, I was forwarded the email correspondence, and my sense was that, the zoning person, the zoning officer,
Someone else, sure.
Dominic, I don't have
The
his,
same guy that it's been for the last.
I don't know. I don't remember his first name is Dominic, I don't remember his last name.
You were.
Basically, said no, that use isn't allowed, and sent the zoning stuff, so I don't think there was, any negotiation. And so my hope is that maybe there can be,
We
And
need to
that's
talk
why-
to the zoning board.
yeah, so, and that's why I wanted to, that's why I reached out to Ralph, the village administrator, saying,
We gotta remind them about.
is there a way we can move forward and
We gotta
potentially
remind them
do
about
this?
the history of this place. Across the street was Baxter Laboratory.
Right,
So we'll see,
And that old, I remember.
that's where the Baxter room comes from.
Yeah.
I haven't, I sent that email to Ralph around 5:30, so I think he was probably gone for the day.
I'm
Can you
gonna
let us
talk
know
to
what
him.
he says?
Yes, if I don't hear from
Yeah.
him, I will
Huh?
see him next week at the
Yeah.
administrators meeting, so I will try to
Okay.
grab him then too. and-
I'd like to see what he says before I.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
wanted to vote for it
If
next
they
time,
say no,
yeah.
then I'd like to.
You're not?
So the other part of that though, was a suggestion about dropping the price. The broker recommends, and you can approve dropping the price and we can wait to see what happens, which was his recommendation.
I would hate to drop price if there is a even remote possibility of this guy getting the building.
I think what she's saying is we can approve it, but we won't do it until these two interested
Active
parties have
Right.
chosen one.
Like
way
if
or
this,
the
if
other.
this falls through, then, if you've already approved it, I can just tell him in 2 weeks rather than waiting till November, drop it so that it, kind
Yeah.
of falls in there. So that was the other recommendation, if you want to approve that.
I think that makes sense to approve it now, but wait until,
Yeah.
this medical, and then the other person who we
No,
thought
we have to table
might make
this
a
one.
lower offer as well.
So Dr. Kalnick is saying that we should table it, which we can do too, to
Okay.
November.
Yeah, it's the same difference.
Gotcha, I'll see the patient tomorrow, stop, bye.
All right, we can table it.
We'll
then.
table the price
Table it
change,
because
and then we'll wait to
I
see
know,
what
I
happens.
wanna know the problem
Okay.
of the board, and I wanna know what this guy wants to do.
Yep.
So we
Yeah,
can meet
Depends
somewhere
how
in the
much-
middle.
It depends how much he's willing to work with the village,
Right.
that guy who is interested.
Mhm.
Because I remember sitting through one where the dentist, the children's dentist,
Yep.
it's on Dexter, you should have, that was unbelievable what they put that man through.
Well, and his employees don't follow the rules because they park in front of my house all the time, making it very hard to get out. And I've complained and the village has followed up with them.
So we will,
There was about four
I will let you guys
sessions.
know
Yeah.
what, I hear from Ralph, and then, we'll table the potential price change till November.
All right, the last, item under new business is the per capita grant requirements.
So I included in your packets the list for the per capita grant requirements for the next 3 years. The ones we're looking at is the 28 requirements. Couple of things that are required by the trustees, to review chapters 1 through 5 of the trustee facts file, and of course I left them upstairs. I know you all should probably have the book. It's literally, I will say it's kind of board basics, what they're asking you to review, but that is a requirement. Basically, I just need to be able to say that, yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yes, I know.
And then, it's chapters 1 through 5. And then also, staff and trustees are required to view or to take some type of, safety training, could be online. So I did include information about a webinar that's going to be November 15th. it doesn't matter if you can or can't attend on that exact date. If you sign up for the webinar, they'll send you information and you can view it at any time, they're recorded.
On the meeting
And
the 16th, we just have it beforehand.
I think, I'm sorry?
Oh, no.
I was gonna say, I thought about having the board view it,
Oh, I did
but I
that
think
too on my
it's,
own time.
it's like an hour long and would
Oh,
take
yeah.
up, yeah. So I would say register for that webinar, and
I
then they'll
promise
send
I
you
will watch it, I
information.
just would rather do it.
It just needs to be, I would prefer that it be done by December 1st, if you could
Okay.
possibly do that, just because it gives me enough time to complete the per capita grant then, so.
December first.
It's attached to the, it was stapled to
Where am I
this-
finding,
Where are you reading from?
It's that second, that email,
Ah,
she has the link.
the
and
one I
then-
didn't read.
yeah,
Gotcha.
so that recording will be available, and so if you've registered for the webinar, they will send you that information,
So
so.
they'll even tell me how to do it.
Yep, yeah. And, you know, yeah, they should, if you, let me know if you have any problems with that, and we can work that out, but they do ask the trustees to do that, and then, so that was it for that.
Okay, communications,
You have a few things in there, a couple thank yous for donations of various things, and then a really lovely letter or email complimenting Melissa for her computer expertise and her willingness to share. We get quite a few really nice emails from patrons, so I always try to share those.
Just, just feedback.
Yeah, that is nice to hear. And then also, I did include the email from Mark Mantz, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, about the cabaret night, which I also.
Is this it?
Yes, that's it. I am planning on attending that. If you are interested in going, let me know. I can purchase the tickets all at once.
October 27th.
That's, yeah, Friday, it's at the Maggiano's.
I think it's $50.
Yeah. So,
Was it added overnight?
what are you looking for?
I put all my stuff somewhere.
You put it all back in your binder? Like at the front?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So those were all the communications that I had.
And public comments, non-agenda
Who's paying the
items?
$50?
The library can pay, we have money in that fund, so I would say,
I'll see. I'm not getting out at night.
that's fine, but the library will pay for the,
It's a very nice invitation, I'm sorry I can't make it, it sounds kind of.
did you,
The crazy
did you
thing
get,
is I
receive the
have
one
a
in the mail?
25th
I don't know if you
anniversary.
sent it.
Oh, I did, yes, yeah, and that's when I realized that it's the same day
It
as
is a
the
very nice invitation.
Botanic Garden thing we're going to.
So, let me know, and then I can purchase the tickets together. I believe that tickets have to be purchased by October 23rd, so if you could let me know by the end of next week. If you, would like to attend, the library will pay for the board member, ticket, but if your spouse or significant other or friend, and you have nothing else to do on Friday nights, and you wanna do that, they would have to pay for their ticket, but we'll pay for your tickets. And that's all I have.
I will adjourn the meeting, the regular board meeting in the Morton Grove Library Board of Trustees at 8:25.
Second.